What if the people you love the most only loved your money? This billionaire tested his family by faking his downfall, pretending to be broke. But when his own blood turns their backs on him, the most unexpected person stays. And in the end, she gets the ultimate reward. This story is filled with greed, betrayal, and the ultimate twist. You won't believe how it ends. Who deserves the billionaire's fortune? His own children or the loyal housemaid? Watch till the end, hit the like button, and tell us who truly deserves the billionaire's fortune. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's settle this once and for all. And make sure you subscribe to this channel for more thrilling short stories. Richard Cole was a man who had built an empire with his own hands. He started with nothing, just a young boy selling in Lagos traffic. But through hard work and determination, he rose to become one of Nigeria's wealthiest businessmen. He owned luxury hotels, oil companies, and properties in different parts of the world. His name alone commanded respect. But despite all his success, there was one thing he had failed at: his family. His 3 children, James, Daniel, and Cynthia, had grown up in wealth, knowing nothing of struggle. They spent his money carelessly, hopping from one expensive venture to another. They had never worked a single day in their lives, yet they demanded more. Richard had noticed something disturbing: his children had no love in their hearts, not even for him. They only saw him as a bank account. He tested them in small ways, pretending to need something minor, and each time, they found an excuse to avoid helping him. Then one night, as he sat alone in his vast mansion, staring at the shimmering chandelier above, an idea struck him. A test. One final test to see who truly cared for him. The next morning, he called his lawyer. Announced that I have lost everything. Spread the news everywhere. I want to see how my family reacts. By noon, the news had hit every major media outlet. Billionaire Richard Cole declares bankruptcy. Business empire crumbles overnight. Television stations covered the story, social media buzzed with gossip, and even employees of Richard's companies whispered in fear. Inside his mansion, Richard sat by the window, waiting. His children arrived one by one, their expressions ranging from disbelief to frustration. James, the eldest, slammed the door as he entered. "Dad, tell me this is a joke." Daniel scoffed. "How did you even let this happen? Weren't you a business genius?" Cynthia, dressed in designer clothes, sighed dramatically. "So what now? We are broke." Richard studied them carefully. "I need your help," he said, his voice low. "Just for a while, until I get back on my feet." Silence. James ran his hand through his hair. "Help how?" Richard swallowed. "Can I stay with one of you? Just until I sort things out." James immediately shook his head. "Dad, my wife is pregnant. We don't have space for extra people." Daniel chuckled dryly. "I live in Dubai now. I don't even have a house in Nigeria anymore." Cynthia checked her nails. "I just moved into a new apartment. There's barely enough space for me." Richard nodded slowly, as if he expected it. "All right," he said. "I understand." One by one, they left. Not a single one of them looked back. That evening, the mansion was unusually quiet. Most of the staff had already left after hearing about the supposed bankruptcy. But one person remained. Mary, the housemaid. She knocked on Richard's door, her small frame almost disappearing against the large doorway. "Sir, I heard what happened. I just wanted to say, I'm not going anywhere." Richard looked at her in surprise. "Mary, you don't have to stay. You can find another job." She shook her head. "I don't work for money alone. You have always been kind to me, sir. When my mother was sick, you paid for her surgery without hesitation. How can I abandon you now? Tears pricked Richard's eyes. He had been a billionaire, surrounded by luxury, yet the only person who cared about him was a simple housemaid. Thank you, Mary, he whispered. With all his workers gone, Mary took over the house chores. She cooked, cleaned, and made sure Richard ate. She encouraged him daily, even when he pretended to be completely broken. With no money coming in, life inside the mansion became difficult. The electricity was cut off, and soon, Richard and Mary were surviving on basic meals. Sometimes, she had to borrow money just to buy food for both of them. But she never complained. Meanwhile, Richard's children continued their lavish lives. James was building a mansion, Daniel was hosting wild parties in Dubai, and Cynthia was vacationing in Paris. None of them ever called to check on their father. Not once did they call to check on their father. Weeks passed. Richard observed everything. His trap was working perfectly. One morning, Richard walked into the living room, dressed in a sharp navy blue suit. Mary looked up in shock. "Sir, are you going somewhere?" He smiled. "Yes, Mary. It's time to end the game." Before she could ask more questions, the gate opened, and several black SUVs rolled in. Men in suits stepped out, carrying briefcases. Mary's mouth fell open as she recognized them, top executives, investors, and lawyers. Richard turned to her. "Mary, I have a confession. I never lost my wealth. This was a test." She gasped. "A test?" "Yes. And you were the only one who passed." As she tried to process what he was saying, the doors burst open. James, Daniel, and Cynthia stormed inside, looking furious. "Dad!" James shouted. "You lied about being bankrupt, didn't you?" Daniel forced a smile. "We were just giving you space." "Of course, we would have helped." Cynthia folded her arms. "You made us look like bad children. People are laughing at us. Do you know how embarrassing this is?" Richard sat down, calmly watching them. "Why are you angry?" "You didn't care when I was poor." James scoffed. "Because we knew something wasn't right." Richard sighed. "If you truly cared, you would have been here long before now. You abandoned me when I needed you most. And now, because you know I still have money, you're here." They shifted uncomfortably. His words hit them like a slap. For the first time, none of them had anything to say. A week later, Richard called a meeting with his lawyers. His children arrived, thinking they were about to receive their inheritance. Richard stood before them and said, "I have made my decision. Everything I own, my companies, houses, cars, and investments, will go to Mary." Silence. Then chaos. James jumped to his feet. "What?" Daniel's face turned red. "This is madness." Cynthia screamed. "She's just a housemaid." Richard remained firm. "She was the only one who stood by me. While you all enjoyed my money but abandoned me in my worst moment, she stayed." James slammed the table. "We are your blood, not her." Richard's eyes darkened. "Then act like it." Then Richard leaned forward. "You abandoned me the moment I had nothing. That tells me everything I need to know." Daniel ran his hands through his hair. "Dad, be reasonable." Cynthia wiped her tears. "Please, Dad. We are sorry." Richard studied them carefully. "Are you sorry because you regret what you did? Or because you're losing your inheritance?" Silence. Richard shook his head. "It's too late." The lawyer handed him a pen. Richard signed the final documents, officially transferring everything to Mary. The lawyers confirmed it, there was no going back. It was done. James, Daniel, and Cynthia left in rage, vowing never to forgive him. Richard didn't care. He turned to Mary, who was still in shock. "Sir, I don't know what to say," she whispered. Richard smiled. "You don't have to say anything. You earned this. Now, let's build an empire together." Tears streamed down her face as she knelt before him, thanking him. Richard pulled her up. "No, Mary. From today, you are no longer a servant. You are family." And with that, the billionaire who once had everything but no true love finally found the one person who deserved it all.